Hello, my name is Kris Millerschone, the Regional Service Manager for MAA, and your host for our third podcast of an ongoing series of Convos on the Coast through the First Coast Apartment Association. Convos on the Coast is coming to you today from MAA 220 Riverside, and today's episode is Maintenance Unpacked. I am joined by two amazing maintenance professionals, Chris Polk of Highmark Residential and Jonathan Monger Sr. from Greystar. Thank you both for joining me today. Chris began his career with Highmark in 2011 as a make-ready technician, transitioning from the HVAC industry. With Highmark's support, he earned multiple licenses and certifications and quickly advanced to Tech 2. From there, Chris continued to rise, taking on his first maintenance supervisor role at a 160-unit property, followed by a 360-unit community, and eventually achieving his career goal of overseeing one of Highmark's largest properties, featuring 820 units. Now stepping into the role of Service Inspection Coordinator for the North Florida region and serving as co-chair of the FCAA Maintenance Committee, Chris brings over a decade of dedication, leadership, and expertise. His journey is a testament to what's possible with hard work, resilience, and the support of a great team. Jonathan Monger is a senior service supervisor at Greystar with more than 16 years of experience. Starting as a groundskeeper, he steadily rose through the ranks and now serves as a senior leader in the North Florida region. His deep knowledge of property maintenance and commitment to excellence make him a key asset to Greystar's developmental team. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Chris, I'm going to start with you. I'd like to know, how do you prioritize maintenance requests, and what is your process for handling daily work orders?
Well, Chris, usually I start my day out in the morning by printing out all of the work orders, and then I personally like to read through each work order individually just so that I can get a sense of the urgency that that work order needs. And then I will assign them in Yardi to the tech that was best suited for that work order.
I'm pretty much the same way. I check for all the emergencies first, and then it's as they come in from timestamp on the work order is when they would be completed.
I like the fact that, you know, we utilize a lot of our maintenance guys with their strengths. You know, I think it achieves better progress throughout the day, you know, when you're using somebody that has an HVAC experience on AC calls and things like that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I always try to introduce new things away from their strengths so that they can learn other things. Try not to overwhelm them with work that they're not comfortable with doing, but definitely try to introduce it to them so that they can get a feel for that, start learning how to do that type of work.
Right. Johnny, how do you ensure work orders are completed on time?
You know, usually I assign them. We have a technology-based app that we do all of our work orders through, and I assign them to my tech that's on the work order side. And I've been with him for 6 years, so he's actually really good, and I don't really have to follow up with them. They usually get completed within 24 to 48 hours.
Great. I think one of the biggest things that we deal with throughout our careers is managing vendor relationships and scheduling.
Sure.
How do you manage your vendors, and how do you, Chris, build those relationships?
With good communication, talking with them, getting to know them is always a good thing to do. See, you certainly don't want anybody in there that you don't trust in your residents' homes doing work for you. But yeah, just communication.
I think over the years that we carry these vendors from property to property or company to company.
True.
You know, building that trust over the years, and they know what your expectations are.
Yes.
You know, and it's nice when you can call them up and say, "Hey, I forgot this. You know, can I get it done today?" You know, and they'll usually jump through hoops if they can to make sure that you're taken care of.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's one thing that I love about developing those relationships over the years. Johnny, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, being in the industry for 16 years, you do make relationships with a lot of these vendors that you see day in and day out. And it just makes it easier whenever you've been with them so long and they've taken care of you so long.
Johnny, what would you say is the biggest challenges you face in your role?
Some of the biggest challenges it's difficult to maintain a high standard while also being seen as supportive and fair. Slackers usually like to stay. Top performers get frustrated and leave. So it's good to always provide regular feedback to your employees, whether it's good or bad. Recognize them both publicly and tangibly. Sometimes teams get isolated from each other, but it's just good to build a cross-training program for people in your team, and that helps them to where they're not getting burnout on one thing.
Right. I agree.
I would agree with that.
Kris, what do you think? What are some of your biggest challenges?
Have probably when you make the plan and then life kicks in, and that you deviate from that plan, because like you're saying, putting out fires and things like that. So,
Well, now that you're in a new role, kind of your whole mentality has kind of had to shift, as being on site and kind of training, and now you're more overseeing, still doing some training, but you're working a lot more closely, with other supervisors and teams.
yeah.
Are you finding that challenging so far, or?
Not so far. I mean, we've got a great group of people, and they do an amazing job. They really do. So most of them, when I get there, I'm just helping them through some of the smaller problems that they're having. Not real bad.
I think one of my biggest challenges throughout my career was the fact that I'm a female. And, being promoted to a supervisor a year after I started in the industry and not knowing what type of feedback I was going to get, because it was predominantly a male industry back then, So, but I was really very fortunate. You just don't know going in, Sometimes that's the worst, is the unknown, what you're going to face on a daily basis, and the turnover and the new teams and things like that. So, but I've been pretty fortunate.
Oh, you're amazing.
Well, I think you all are amazing as well. Thank you. Johnny, what certifications or training does your company require, or state and local requirements for the multifamily?
I know for our maintenance techs, we would definitely require EPA. It doesn't have to be universal. It's just type 1 and type 2. Usually we require the supervisor to have a CPO, KMT, PMC. And normally that's about what we require on the property. So there's also training that the apartment association gives that we try to send our people to every now and again. So
That's the same for Highmark as well. So what we require.
The PMC, a lot of things behind the PMC was we're actually the only county in Florida that requires PMC. And it actually is such a great thing that it actually protects us in a lot of ways. So we were very fortunate to keep that on with them, getting rid of some of the licenses in the last few years would have really affected us. So, and the fact of, the apartment association offering several classes throughout the year, we have really great instructors that have years and years of experience. And I think that's a really great thing to have when you're trying to teach the younger, generation that's coming up.
From what I understand, the PMC was kind of streamlined from the way it used to be through the city. They used to have to do like a lot of schooling at night. Is that correct?
No.
In order to get the craftsman license?
It started back in 2000, and we had, I went to several city council meetings where they were fighting us on it. And if it wouldn't have passed, it would have affected almost 2,000 jobs, that you basically would have had a grounds person on every property, because that's all you'd really been able to do is grounds and change an AC filter and maybe plunge a toilet here and there. But anything that required a permit, you know, you weren't going to be able to do at all. We're fortunate enough to have being able to change light switches and things like that under normal circumstances we wouldn't be able to do. But what happened was they went to grandfather people in, and it didn't, it passed. And then we had some contractors that fought it, and it ended up going to court, and they overturned it. And so Peggy Queen and a few others got with the city and came up with this PMC license. And in order to get your PMC, you had to pass the KMT. And what it basically boiled down to was making sure that everybody had common knowledge of all of your electrical, plumbing, AC, and for safety reasons.
Sure.
And so that's what saved a lot of the jobs, was that we came up with that agreement to be able to take them, put them through KMT. They have to have at least 1 year experience to be able to complete the course, you know. So we've been very fortunate enough to have that, and being on the construction board for 12 years, we were able to keep that, which I think is great, again, to be able to protect us on down the road, you know, and being able to do things that we would normally have to call a contractor for. So it saves us money and teaches our guys as well. So that's how the PMC came about.
Okay.
So how often, Kris, do you conduct safety meetings and training?
Well, our safety meetings are monthly. So every month, usually a property will sit down with whatever we're talking about that month. So whether it's golf cart safety or ladder safety, and then somebody, usually the supervisor or the property manager, will go over the criteria for that, and we'll have some lunch together. So it's about once a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny?
Yeah, it's the exact same for me. Every month
Okay.
we'll have a lunch or a breakfast, and we'll do an hour-long safety meeting, and then we'll all talk about the property and if anybody has any issues going on.
Awesome. That's usually what we do too. We actually set up a quarterly training that we do for our technicians. And we'll do it either on a site, or we'll do it at a contractor's facility. And it's required for all of our technicians to keep them updated on all the upcoming new products and any issues that they may run across. And it's worked out really well so far. So safety meetings are usually we're supposed to have 5-minute meetings every morning. Safety meetings we try to have a couple times a month. So even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes. So, but I love the fact of everybody's paying attention to doing these safety meetings and not just putting them off to the side.
Yeah.
You know. Johnny, do you have a preventative maintenance schedule for HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and so on? And how do you implement this?
So yes, Greystar does require us to have a preventative maintenance schedule. We do first quarter, it would be our annual unit inspections with balconies. And normally I do my sprinkler inspection during the winter months, so we're a little less busy at those times. And then that's when I'll implement those annual unit inspections, when we're going into each unit looking at the sprinklers with the contractor. And then we also have a summer month HVAC. And then for the second quarter, third quarter would be the smoke detector inspection. And then fourth quarter would be the HVAC heat inspection. So
Okay.
4 times a year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Chris, how about you?
It's about the same for Highmark.
Okay.
That's about what we do
Do you ever hear, we don't have time?
all the time.
You know, that's one of my my biggest things is actually in our last podcast, we did a maintenance minute on just that, you know, and I always tell the guys, you know, you can implement this on your turns. You know, if you think about it, you know, most of us turn 50% of our property every year, if you think about that, and there's 50% that's been completed, you know, and it's all time managed. You know, and that's the big thing. You can knock it out. I mean, the last thing you want is somebody to, call you, just moved in and they don't have any air because they have a plugged up evap coil.
Oh,
So those are things that can be knocked out just on turns alone.
Another way we implement it too, we do a weekly pest control. When they come out weekly, we actually do a building or a floor of a building, and then we'll also try to knock some out them at that time.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea. Thank you for sharing that.
it is.
How often do you inspect your exteriors and your roofs? Do you do it twice a year? Do you do it quarterly?
So the properties that I've been on, I've always broken property up into sections so that I can focus on a few buildings at a time to make sure that I'm giving them my full attention. For my last property, it was 12 sections, so every month I'd have, like a section of 6 buildings that I would go through, do an inspection, walk around, make sure no branches are touching, gutters are clear, no siding or anything has come off or deteriorated, stuff like that.
Okay, Johnny?
Ours is monthly. I've learned to leverage a lot of this to some of my employees that work with me just to help me out for changing the filters in the common area ACs or hopping on the roof, making sure there's no debris or loose items up there. So, but it is required monthly through Greystar.
Okay, very good. Again, I just want a reminder that we are broadcasting from 220 Riverside today. Johnny, what's your typical turnaround time to prepare a vacant unit?
Well, it's supposed to be 5 business days. Sometimes that doesn't happen. They usually give you the fire drill 3 or 4 days, but by policy, it is supposed to be 5 business days.
Okay. Chris?
It's the same for us. Yeah, 5 business days, but
You get to the end of the month and they say, hey, I need this unit in 2 days for occupancy, right?
well, absolutely make it happen.
We know that all too well. Chris, how do you coordinate with your leasing or property management team to ensure the units are ready?
Well, good communication, always good communication, and I usually like to speak with the leasing agent that has rented that particular unit to make sure everything is what her and the prospect have talked about, that we're meeting all the needs of the prospect. So real good communication there, and usually I'll walk it prior to the office, walking it, and then they'll go and see some things and maybe they'll want tweaked here and there, and we'll make it happen for them.
Now, do you walk them with the leasing agent or with the manager, or do you walk it by yourself first?
Most of the time I would walk it by myself, just to make sure there was nothing major or anything that my guys may have missed. Make sure it's presentable for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny, how do you control costs for tools, supplies, parts, and appliances?
Oh, I definitely. I sit with my manager monthly, and we review monthly spend reports and budgeted line items. She definitely gives me a printout every month of my budgeted numbers of what I can spend, what I should spend. We compare actuals versus budgeted line items. We also sit down and identify recurring high-cost items and see, is it better to source this out to be more affordable, or find this in bulk somewhere?
Okay. How about you, Chris?
Same for us. Just going through the budget with the manager. A lot of the times we would sit down and eat lunch and go over the budget, figure out what we need to save and where we can spend.
What happens when you go over budget?
Who goes over budget?
Well, there you go. That's true. We don't want to admit to that, right? Chris, how do you communicate with your residents about ongoing maintenance issues or having to wait on parts?
Phone calls. I usually call the resident, in addition to my tech leaving a copy of the work order in the apartment, letting them know that we've got a part on order. And I always try to keep them as updated as possible, depending on the ETA of the part. Sometimes it's next day, sometimes it'll take a week to get a part. But as long as I keep the resident informed, they are 9 times out of 10 always cool with what's going on. Yeah, as long as they stay in the loop.
How about you, Johnny?
Nowadays, I used to have my leasing agents just call them, or my tech leave a note in the unit. Nowadays with technology, we have apps on our computers where we can text residents, and I can just go straight on there, text them the issue, what's going on, what's going to happen. If they have any questions, they can contact the office, and then just try to be personal with them.
Are these things that you talk to your teams about when it comes to communication with the residents?
Normally, yes. I'll try to keep them all in the loop, what's going on, if there's a part on order, or they can go to the texting app as well and see, hey, they texted this resident already, and he knows that the part's on order.
Okay. Johnny, how do you handle resident complaints when it comes to work orders?
You always listen first without being defensive. You definitely investigate the situation right away, respond quickly with a plan, and document everything.
I always tell everybody, don't take it personal when they're upset. You'd be upset if you were in their shoes, but they're not mad at you. They're mad at the situation. I've seen a lot of maintenance guys that are able to calm a resident in a minute, just by communicating, letting them know that you're there to help them, and you'll make sure that everything's being taken care of.
Most definitely. But the first line of defense is always listen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Let them vent.
Listening is key.
Yep, let them vent. Jonathan, in your role, how do you ensure a positive resident experience?
As a service supervisor at Greystar goes far beyond fixing things. It's about building trust, maintaining high standards, and showing residents that your home is your priority. I always try to prioritize fast and provide quality service, communicate clearly, respect residents' home, that is their space, monitor satisfactions with community managers and resolve issues quickly, and anticipate, don't just react.
You know about those Google ratings, right?
That's key on a property.
At the end of the day, we want to make sure that our residents have a great experience, and it helps with resident retention. So, we focus a lot on customer service. That is a big thing in the industry anymore.
Yeah, because it is their home and they live there, so
Absolutely.
we have to treat it that way.
And as supervisors, I think we want to make sure that they're happy. It's their home, and we should treat it as it's our home.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we're over multi-million-dollar assets. So looking at it from budget point of view to all the way down to customer service, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And a lot of technicians and even supervisors don't look at it like that from that perspective. So, Kris, what suggestions do you have to improve maintenance efficiency or quality?
Organization. Be organized. An organized shop, an organized golf cart, tools. I'm huge on keeping everything organized so you know where it's at. So you're not spending half of your time looking for a part or looking for a tool. Know where your things are. Communication, again, I'm huge on communication. So it starts with the work order, how the work order is written up. If the tech receives a work order for a toilet not working and it's a 2-bathroom, I want to know which toilet do we need to be focused on. It starts there.
Teamwork makes a dream work.
Teamwork, right?
Absolutely. Johnny?
I feel like technology has played a big part in streamlining a lot of things in the maintenance industry, whether it's apps that help you communicate with residents or apps that help you with technology or with doing your inspections. Going back 10 years ago when we were doing due diligences, you used to have legal papers that you were checking everything off on, and now everything's on iPads, and it's just so much easier whenever you do the things with technology.
It is, and if you can't be organized today with that technology, then there's definitely a problem. Either we need more training or something on those lines, because they've made our lives a lot better in a lot of different ways. So I definitely agree. Well, before we wrap it up, I have one more question for the both of you. Johnny, I'm going to start with you, and I would like to know what advice you could give someone who is new to the multifamily industry or who would like to get into the maintenance field.
All I could say is just be ready to learn. Be a sponge, basically. Soak up all the knowledge you can. Read. Go online. If you don't know how to fix something, go on YouTube. There's plenty of videos on how to fix appliances or anything like that. But just be ready to learn and just take advice from coworkers and other people.
You know, I tell these guys today and I'm sure you're the same, both of you, when we started out, we didn't have the luxuries of YouTube and Google. You know, we literally had to figure it out, you know, what the problem was. So
I've told my guys that all the time. YouTube it, Google it.
Absolutely.
There's a video that'll show you how to do it.
Yes, definitely. It's a lot easier today than it was 20, 30 years ago. And Kris, what advice would you give?
Probably about the same as Johnny's. Just learn, soak it up, try, give it a shot. It's already broke. See what you can do.
One thing that I've always said is, you know, to be in this industry, you have to have passion. You know, you have to have passion and you have to be humble, you know, and never forget where you came from. You know, because guys that move up, you know, a little bit of power, you know, can really destroy somebody's, you know, mentality as far as, you know, the way they treat people and everything. And just, you never forget where you came from. So I always try to be, you know, very, very humble. Treat everybody the way I want to be treated and don't ever forget where I came from.
I agree with that.
Guys, I appreciate your time, taking the time out of your day to come and spend it with us. And I appreciate all you do and continue the good work.
Thank you for having us.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Now, don't go anywhere because the Maintenance Minute is right around the corner. Now, let's sway into the Maintenance Minute with Justin Hammock from Roland Reach Plumbing.
All right, we're going to talk about toilets today to see if you actually have a stoppage or you actually have a toilet that's not working correctly. Either way is the same outcome. If it's not flushing, we need to check to make sure the water level is up top. At the water level, it actually has a little tag on there that shows where it's supposed to be at. The little Peter tube coming off the fill valve should be going down into the Douglas valve. If you don't know what that is the PVC pipe that's directly in the middle that the flapper is attached to. If that's not water coming out of there, it's not filling the bowl up and you will not get a proper flush. So check all that. And also the other important thing is around the actual rim of the toilet underneath that you can't see. We have jets up underneath there. Now, I'm going to tell y'all a little secret of how to clean them the jets out. Old school coat hangers. It's the perfect fit for every toilet. I have not found one that hasn't worked on. Make you a little J-bend, put some gloves on, yes, gloves, and clean out all the jets all the way around there. And you'll flush it and you'll see all the nasty stuff that comes out of there. So clean all the jets out, levels up, Peter tubes going in the center. Should have a good flushing toilet. These new toilets nowadays, they have to be perfect or they will not flush right and nothing will go down.
Thank you for tuning in to Convos on the Coast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, frequently visit our website, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And now you can find this podcast on Apple Podcast. Also, if you're interested in having us record at your community or facility, or if you have a topic you'd like for us to cover, or you might be interested in sponsoring an episode of this podcast, fill out our form on our Convos and Coast page on our website at fcaaonline.com. And we'll see you for our next convo.